What is thy bidding, my master?
There is a great disturbance in the Force. It seems the Rotten Tomatoes user score for the Acolytes has dropped to 14%.
How is that possible?
They're probably racists, Lord Vader. I used the Force to create a virus to hide the scores on the site.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Ha! You're just jealous you didn't think of it yourself, Lord Vader. Now all we need is for some of the new Star Wars fans to brigade the score back up again. They just need the correct motivation.
Perhaps I can find new ways to motivate them.
Good. But don't force strangle them all this time. Otherwise there'll be nobody left to watch the show.
As you wish, my master.
What's wrong, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and sure, there's some interesting stuff going on over at Rotten Tomatoes, and the media is celebrating that apparently professional Acolyte haters fall for fake Rotten Tomatoes controversy. But you know what's not controversial? The nearly 75% drop in Star Wars viewers that Disney has wrought upon themselves with their woke ideology as new ratings are out. And finally, we have evidence that the Acolyte just sucks. I mean, we know the show sucked, but we were told, hey, you gotta, people are watching it. Look at all the people tweeting about it. Obviously, people must be watching this wonderful show. Look at all the people tweeting about it. And just like the fake pronoun controversy on Twitter, the same people tweeting about the Acolyte aren't watching it. Now, of course, let's talk about yesterday, where the Rotten Tomatoes user score did briefly disappear, although I have seen it return pretty quickly. Audience score for the Acolyte disappears from Rotten Tomatoes' main page for the show. The audience score for Star Wars' latest live action, The Acolyte, has disappeared or been removed from Rotten Tomatoes' main page for the series. However, the audience score is still available on the show's first season page. When searching for The Acolyte on Rotten Tomatoes, people no longer see the audience score, but instead only see the tomato meter score, which shows the critic score. The audience score is still available on the website. If you click on the show's first season page, it currently sits at an atrocious 14%. It's unclear why the show's audience score is not available while accessing the main page for The Acolyte. Well, I can tell you why. Certainly, there was some shenanigans going on. Remember when Rotten Tomatoes went in and removed or edited the user review score for Captain Marvel? I do. Like, the media is coming out here and saying, like, whoa, you're crazy to think they would ever do that. It's very depressing to see an entire industry created to hate on various pieces of supposedly woke media. Bro, your entire industry is built around propping it up. What are you talking about? The Acolyte Disney are devoted to outrage, devoted to the Acolyte Disney Plus Star Wars series set long before the most well-known era. Now those making their online existence about hating the Acolyte have left on an absolutely non-existent controversy spread by a number of high-profile Twitter accounts, including the 2.6 million follower End Wokeness, and the idea is passed around that Rotten Tomatoes had hidden or erased the 25,000 user scores that took the Acolyte down to 14%, lower than any other Star Wars project in history, including the infamous holiday special. This, of course, did not happen. Yes, it did, actually. Shortly after it made the rounds, the score was back, so it was removed. This is the spin, right? This is the wild spin. So in this article talking about how it's totally that everyone got fooled, you admit that, yes, in fact, it did disappear. That it did, in fact, leave the website. So I'm not sure who you're talking about. Now, the worst thing to ever happen was a brief technical glitch, the kind of which happens frequently on Rotten Tomatoes with these score listings. Really? Do you have any evidence of that? Do you have any evidence that this happens frequently? None, you say, Paul Tassi. What a coincidence. It's deeply depressing to search the Acolyte on YouTube and countless parade of angry thumbnails, often just flat out lying about woke actress losing it after getting fired by Disney. Amanda Stenberg has not been fired by Disney. Or hyperbolic to off the charts. This is how Star Wars dies with thunderous cringe. The video has 1.4 million views. What's wrong with that? there's obviously an audience for it, right? There's very obviously an audience for it. So what are you butthurt about? I'm not exactly sure what you're mad about. You know, the show, all this for a show that is okay at worst, interesting at best. No, the show stinks. It's very bad. And sure, it came back, but my guess is they were trying to hide it. Was it just, why was it only The Acolyte? There's 100,000 shows. There's 100,000 shows on Rotten Tomatoes. Why was it only The Acolyte? Now, sure, it's back, but maybe that was because everyone noticed. Certainly, we can both agree that the site did, the score did disappear, right? There's no denying that part. And now let's get to the ratings. And shout out to Cosmic Book News. I know I kind of meme on them. I'll give Matt some credit on this. Good article. The Acolyte Nielsen ratings state Disney Star Wars fan base plummets by 75%. The data reveals the viewership numbers are the second worst for Disney Star Wars. I think we can do better than that. We can get the first worst. The Acolyte Nielsen ratings are in, and as expected, they're not good, with the numbers being the second worst in Disney Star Wars. And there's some contention around calling things Disney Star Wars. People get angry. It's just Star Wars. It's not Disney Star Wars. No. I think that it is important to label it Disney Star Wars because it is, whatever it isn't Star Wars. We already knew the viewership was lower than Ahsoka, but it's also been learned that the viewership has been much lower than The Mandalorian, which, okay, that makes sense. By what looks to be nearly 75%. It's lower than Obi-Wan Kenobi and even lower than the Book of Boba Fett. The Acolyte only beats Andor in terms of viewership, and not even by much. The Acolyte also cost nearly double of what Ahsoka did, 187 million versus 100 million, while the Nielsen ratings reveal that Ahsoka's viewership is nearly double that of The Acolyte. Well, I mean, is anybody surprised by that? This show, Ahsoka, brought, I would be shocked if it brought any significant number of new viewers to Disney Plus. I would be shocked. Now, maybe the industry of hate viewership is better than ever, and maybe it really did bring thousands of new people to the app. I don't know. The Acolyte only beats Andor in terms of viewership, but Disney and Bob Iger definitely can't be happy with these numbers. Nielsen, which is the industry standard, released its streaming ratings for the week of June 3rd to June 9th. The Acolyte premiered with its first 2 episodes on June 4th. According to Nielsen, the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte were watched for 488 million minutes, or if we can take the average of 2 episodes, that's 244. Ahsoka, via Nielsen, the 2-episode premiere back on August 22nd, was watched by 829 million minutes. So the average was 414 per episode. Now, there are certainly some sloppy math there. Like, certainly some people watched the first episode and never watched anything else. But I think it's, as long as you keep it even across the board, that's fair. The Mandalorian Season 3 premiered on March 1st for 823 million. Andor premiered with 3 episodes in September 2022. Was watched for 624. Obi-Wan Kenobi for 1 billion minutes, an average of 513 per episode with 2 episodes, because they premiere with 2 episodes, so you have to include the runtime, right? We don't have the Nielsen numbers for Mandalorian Season 1 back in 2019, but I can assume it was probably quite good. Nielsen viewership premiere average per episode in minutes. Mandalorian Season 2, 1 billion. Season 3, 823 million. So they lost 200 million viewers from Season 2 to Season 3. That's probably not good. I wonder what happened in that range. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember. You fired Gina Carano. Anyway, I digress. Obi-Wan Kenobi down to 513. Ahsoka 2, 414. Boba Fett 389. The Acolyte just 244 million. Just barely more than Andor. I mean, yikes. Now, is it fair to compete to put the Mandalorian up against the Acolyte? No, I don't think that is necessarily fair. I don't think that that's really apples to apples. But I think if you look at this, if we want to figure out the average viewers for each premiere because the runtimes of the episode are so different, we divide the Nielsen viewership by numbers by runtime. We don't see that much change except for Mandalorian Season 3 and Boba Fett is because, we had Luke Skywalker. Obviously, what the data reveals is that there is a significant difference in popularity. We're comparing the top show, The Mandalorian, and the bottom, which is The Acolyte and/or Andor, which is fair to say it's actually Andor. But The Acolyte is the second worst performing show they've put out. The data reveals that a majority of fans who watched The Mandalorian didn't tune in for The Acolyte or much of other Star Wars shows. Nearly 75% weren't interested, as indicated by the significant 73.25% drop. I mean, that is wild. That is a wild drop. And, the idea that all they have now is, the Acolyte fan base has found its most attractive Sith, by Paul Tassi, by the way. The same guy that would get all worked up about, if they were talking like this about a woman. The world, if they didn't have any double standards, they'd have no standards at all. You see the Acolyte right now. If you click on it, I see the audience score at 14%. Now, I don't see anywhere where it's not showing, but at some point there were screenshots where it was missing. So it's returned at some point. The Acolyte showrunner Leslie Headland stands firm behind the bathing scene. From a narrative perspective, it simply just had to happen. Yeah, we had to have the guy completely, in the buff. Why? Reasons. Because it's all we know. Because we had to appeal to the femcells. You see here, even on, their community noting, current ratings do in fact show the 14%. Okay, but it didn't show it for a period of time. And was it all audience scores? Because nobody seems to be rebutting with that. No one seems to be saying, it was all audience scores that went away. That's not what I've seen. It seems like it's just this. It seems like it's just The Acolyte. So not a good look. Losing 75% of viewership, or having 75% less viewership than The Mandalorian, is probably a lot more than what Disney expected. The show sucks. It's almost over, just like Star Wars in general. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.